Peros y Tuperas. Today on DOOP by the River, we have a little match going on as we speak live right now in Chester, Pennsylvania. It's not a match that you would be anticipating. We're going to mention that. We're going to talk about a rumor. It doesn't have to do with the Union player currently. Stay tuned for that. We're going to review what happened on Sunday afternoon against the Columbus Crew. What an absolute beautiful performance by our Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we're going to look ahead to this coming Saturday night as Philadelphia Union have to travel to Cincinnati, Ohio to face off against FC Cincinnati. And don't you dare go anywhere, guys, because you do not want to miss this episode of DOOP by the River. Let's get this started. Got it! And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to DOOP by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And we're brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Speaking of what's going on, PSN, we're back on PSN tonight. Of course, we're also on Ed Barcelona Philly's YouTube channel, and we're on Twitter as well on the DOOP by the River account. So welcome all, and thank you for tuning in on this beautiful Wednesday night to DOOP by the River. Before we move forward, let's talk about the business at hand before we dive into the action today. Guys, if you're watching this on Ed Barcelona Philly's YouTube channel or PSN, make sure you guys hit the like for the live, and make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. And of course, you can find this podcast as well as all of your favorite PSN podcasts on PSN Radio. And of course, you can find that wherever you stream podcasts from Apple, Google, and Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you guys today, my experts in duping, and we have to start off here today with the birthday boy himself. Ladies and gentlemen, my man, Zach Laboso. He's looking old today. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, Zach? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Hanging out, relaxing, coaching, the usual Wednesday in my life. So
an eventful 23-year-old you are, Zach.
Yeah.
And both my co-hosts, we'll get to my other co-host, but Zach has got on the Venezia. You got the DeVries on the back?
I do not.
I
do not. I got this one here, and then I got the home kit in the closet. Actually, this one I didn't like as much as the black one, but having them in person, I like this one more.
Dude, they are crisp. I love
Yeah,
them.
they are clean. They are clean.
Very good. Not as clean as the Sport and Serotonin that's about to come soon. You heard it here first. And ladies,
hey. I'm not going to say that they are going to be fire. I haven't seen them yet, but I just know.
Oh, I have. They're fire.
I just know they're going to be fire.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this man is probably going to get his Venezia's kit as well, but please welcome Justin, center back Lasso squad leader Freiberg. What's going on, Justin? How you doing? What kit you got on today, Justin?
This is the Grays Lake kit. Not a real club, but although Grays Lake is a place out in Idaho, it's a nice jersey made by Olive and York, slightly smaller jersey company. But no, I'm pretty good. Honestly, it's been a good week for Union soccer. If anyone follows the Sporting Serotonin, you'll know we lost a close game, and we had a DOOP by the River connection for a goal.
We did.
Launched a beautiful pass for the birthday boy to outpace the defenseman who at every points was trying to haul Zach down. That was
yes. I did not take a dive. I did not take a dive
every time, but all in all, it's been a good week for soccer. Good day to talk about some soccer.
And U.S. men's national team against Jamaica tomorrow. So.
Oh my God! It's the one time I have to root against Andre. Like I love Dre.
Yeah, we're gonna pepper that goal. Put like 6 past him. Just really take him down.
Yeah, and then we'll be like, when he comes back, Dre, we love you. But,
I'm so sorry. I called you mean names. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. I love you guys, but you know who I'm gonna be rooting for tomorrow. You know where my heart's at, Mr. Andre Blake.
Well, what about Brendan? You're not gonna root for Brendan? Brendan's gonna start tomorrow.
That is tough.
Or maybe Mark might be in the
Mark might start tomorrow.
I just want Andre to have CONCACAF success. I know Jamaica's devs, they've come a long way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know they have.
I want to see them hoist something. Please give my man some more.
Unfortunately, the way CONCACAF is, it's an uphill battle, man.
Yeah, they got to wait for Mikel Antonio to finally come over.
Yeah.
See the way CONCACAF works. We got a USA, we got a Mexico, and then some other team that usually competes as well. Good stuff, guys. Gentlemen, currently right now there is a match being played in Chester, Pennsylvania. We have NWSL action, and it's an important one because tonight is the goodbye to the game for Carly Lloyd. It's her retirement. It's her farewell tour. You know, it's better than Derek Jeter's, I would say. But they're facing off. Gotham FC is facing off against Washington Spirit at the Sub. And it was so dope. And by the way, the Union, of course, the coverage of just covering the whole day for Carly Lloyd has been spectacular on social media. The fact that Carly Lloyd shows up to the Sub in a Zach Ertz jersey.
Had to be.
I love her.
I mean, listen, Carly's going to be the GM of the Philadelphia team, and Julie will be one of the first players. It's clear. It's
that's my dream.
It's been written. It's destiny.
That's my dream. But listen, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, guys. This is an important match for us to show the league that Philadelphia can support this. Obviously, listen, of course, we're here for Carly Lloyd, but just showing the league that we can support NWSL teams is important. I love the NWSL. I love the NWA or WNBA. I'm sorry. But it's hard for me to get into those leagues without that rooting interest. I'm not going to root for Washington or New York. That doesn't seem right. I'm only rooting for Philadelphia. So that tonight is definitely important. And Justin, about 10,000? Is that what we heard?
The reports from our boy,
your inside sources,
John Tannenwald, JT tweeted earlier. There's supposed to be about at least 10,000 tickets. They said 10 to 15 in that range because they were expecting 50 within that ballpark. Which for a game on a Wednesday, no matter what, it's still pretty good. And I think it definitely goes to show that Philadelphia, Philly wants a women's team. I don't know, it's the one thing. Listen, what else am I gonna do with my time? And
I think we would all go. All three of us would go.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, listen, it'd be another excuse for me to buy jerseys. Come on. Wait, do I need another excuse? No. Would it give me a valid one? Yes.
So true. I wanted to take a quick second, and I'll let Justin take this one because he's got more background on the situation. But the NWSL has been in the headlines for not the right reasons, and today the girls took a stand at the 6th minute and stood in the center of the pitch in solidarity. Justin, I'll let you take over. Briefly just kind of explain what's going on and the significance of the standing in the center of the pitch.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, it started with all this stuff with the Washington Spirit. There's been stuff for the last few months about whether teams are vaccinated, and then there's been reports about the culture and the misogyny and the abuse, and that was apparently the tip of the iceberg because last week the league we all found out that one of the most prominent coaches in the women's game, Paul Riley, is let's just say this quote is a massive scumbag. The level of abuse and neglect that he on the players mostly during his time as the Portland Thorns coach, but also as the North Carolina Courage coach. The story came out, and as the week went on, basically the information just got worse. It led to obviously Paul Riley's dismissal, U.S. Soccer stripping his coaching license. In shocking news, Friday, the commissioner, Lisa Baird, and the head of legal counsel were also let go. And it's just gotten worse and worse. Recent reports said that the North Carolina Courage owner basically didn't even bother to do any due diligence and just took Portland's word for it that everything was fine and nothing was wrong. So obviously a lot of accountability, a lot of changes need to be made within the league. And that's kind of what this was. The 6 minute obviously said they went in all the games, they went and stood in the center, circle and arm in arm and just stood there for, I believe, about at least 30 seconds. And I think, and you had signs along the crowd. And I think it just goes to show that unfortunately, the league was. I mean, the league was boosted to Good Morning America and CBS Nightly News, which in a normal circumstance would be a great thing. Unfortunately, it was for the wrong reasons. But now that the league is in that spotlight, it's giving the time, one, to elevate the notoriety of the league, but two, to also make some serious changes. I mean, you've had some of the biggest players, one being Alex Morgan, who have come out and not only said what's been going on in the league, but what happened with Paul Riley. Like they've been using their platform to call out the issues that they see with the league and they see with the structure and the people in power, and there are calls for some pretty radical changes, but changes that I think are truly necessary if the league is going to clean itself of this unfortunately slightly tarnished reputation right now. I mean, the league, this is the second incarnation of women's soccer, and this is the most sustainable that it's been, since women's soccer's been around in this country. And it's a shame, but I also think it gives plenty of time for people to really sit back and focus on the fact that women's sports are pretty damn important. They're professional athletes, and also that they deserve a lot of the same stuff that most professional athletes should get. So I think it's good to see, obviously, now with with the game, with the Gotham Spirit game being on national TV. It's huge. I mean, that's a really serious thing, and in a good way. And obviously, Philly's making a statement that they can give a crowd. So, unfortunately, with everything going on, it overshadowed the fact that this is Carly Lloyd's swan song, and also doing it in her home area. But at the very least, everyone could appreciate her while also understanding how serious and the need for change there is within the league.
Very good points. On the right now on Duke by the River account, we actually just retweeted the scene at the 6th minute of the women standing in the center of the pitch and standing in solidarity. If you guys want to check it out, it was a very powerful moment. It was truly special. So, Justin, thank you for some of us who weren't aware of what's going on. Thank you for bringing it to light, and we also too here stand with what they are standing for as well. But gentlemen, let's get to the actual pitch on Sunday. The Union in that same stadium faced off against Columbus Crew, and they got a huge 3-0 victory over the Crew. I think we all listen. I know where Columbus has been standing in the within the table this season. They've dealt with some injuries. They've dealt with call-ups. It's been a tough year for the Columbus Crew, but still, the Union, to me, in my opinion, played their best match yet. And really, from the jump, I really felt like they dominated the match. On the 24th minute, we saw the Jack Elliott low free kick. Jim called it an ugly shot, and I'm going to have to agree with him. But somehow, someone got past Evan Bush. And shouts to Evan Bush because he took it on the chin on Sunday. He definitely took it on the chin. And the beginning of the second half, Alejandro Bedoya, that counterattack, guys, Alejandro Bedoya started the counterattack there. And he would make a great run all the way into the box, and Kasper Shabilko was able to find him, and Ali was able to bury that second goal for the 2-0 lead. Things got a little bit dicey as Kai Wagner in the 65th minute caught himself called himself a second yellow, which resulted into a red. We left the Union with 10 men, and then 10 minutes after that, we got a penalty kick, and at that point, I'm just freaking out with a 2-0 lead. You got a PK here, but of course, Andre Blake steps up with the save, and then in the injury time, we get a Leon Flock goal, and the Union stamped their 3 points and hail victory against the Columbus Crew. What a beautiful, beautiful performance here by the Philadelphia Union. I'll start with Zach here. Like I just said, Zach, to me, that was the best performance by the Philadelphia Union. I thought they were dominating from the beginning to the end. You didn't hear anything from Lucas Zelarayán. You didn't hear anything from Yazi Zardes. I thought it was a great performance. What did you see, and was this the best performance of the Union yet?
So yeah, I agree with you. I think it was the best performance that I've seen out of them, besides like Champions League. And I predicted 3-1, and in all honesty, let's be real, should have been at least Columbus should have had at least one goal, if not for the absolute audacity that Andre Blake has to continue to be the best goalkeeper in the league every single week, keeping this team in games. And yeah, I mean, it was just a complete, like, it was the most complete performance we've seen from the guys. They put together basically all 90 minutes where, besides like the penalty kick and that one shot what's his face had, that Blake made that crazy save on. I'm blanking on his name. Nagby. Was it Nagby?
I think it was.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Nagby's shot where Blake made that wonder save. It was an awesome performance. The red card kind of sucks, but even with 10, they still showed that they were dominant in the match, and it didn't make any type of difference. Columbus really had nothing. It'll be interesting for the next game because I really think Leon's going to play there. But
really,
we'll have to wait and see. I do. I have a feeling he's going to play Leon there.
Well, we'll talk about that in our second segment here. But man, that would be definitely crazy. All right, Justin. To me, how can you not put Andre Blake as the man of the match? Look, we've seen this before. I mean, for us Union fans, like, this is like nothing out of the ordinary. But it's, to me, it still feels surprising to see. I'm just watching such greatness at that position in this league. I don't think we realize that sometimes. What did you see from Andre on Sunday, man? He was in the zone.
I mean, like, it's at this point you don't expect anything other than Andre being, Dre being Dre. And I think you look at 2019 where he had a bit of a down year. I mean, the team itself was getting better. They had the win, in the playoffs against Red Bull, but he wasn't really the same goalie. And then 2020 comes, and then Dre is back again. It's clear that that 1 year was a blip because he's arguably the top goalie in the league. Revs fans, Matt Turner's got to do a little more sustainable, stuff on a year-to-year basis before we start, crowning him anything. Dre is a 2-time goalie of the year. He's the captain of his national team, and he's only getting better. And you forget that we've had him now for 8 years.
Yeah.
And when we drafted him, it was a position we didn't need. We had McMath. We had him, we had a logjam at goalie. I thought that year we were to draft Steve Birnbaum. I remember that draft. We traded over DC and drafted Andre. And at the time, I'm like, why do we need another goalie? This is insane. And, the first year, obviously, he really didn't get a ton of time. And it was 2015, really, when he really kind of got a start. And, I mean, I remember that game against New England where it was a 0-0 draw, and he had 10 saves. And you just see the look on the Revolution's fans' face like, what in the hell? He was making what is, at this point, just typical Andre, just making ridiculous saves.
Yeah.
And I think, for all the crap we've given about this team, Dre and the defense have never been an issue. I can count maybe a handful of games where the defense didn't play as good, but I really can't blame Dre for anything this year.
No.
And this game cemented that, there were games of the previous years where Dre would have to steal us points. And now it's just an added benefit having him there. And it gives the defense and the offense the freedom to just kind of focus on their game and not have to worry about behind them because they know Dre's got it. And to have that kind of a feeling, to have behind you a goalie that you don't have to worry about at all. You can play with the full confidence of doing what you need to do. Honestly, that's security that you really, love to have, and not every team has. And that's a solid goalie is a pretty good staple for any team.
You're right, man. And remember when we had Matt on a couple weeks ago, from the EPL boys. You know, he was saying how like we kind of built our team around Andre Blake. I mean, I remember in his first couple of years of starting, I mean, those back lines were putting him into some tough positions. And you know what Zach said was completely right. But this team, it is built from those essentially 5 guys back there, including Andre Blake and the 4 defenders that are in front of him. And when we constantly criticize the attack of this Union team, but this team is built from the back. It starts with Andre being that wall back there, and then those 4 clogs that are in front of him. And the guys also are in charge of creating the attack from back there as well. And when it's playing at its best, it's definitely tough to stop here, man. All right, Zach, listen. This attack of the Union has been doing its job. I mean, the defense as well has been doing its job, but the attack seems to be a little more fluid. Now, in this 4-game unbeaten streak that we've been on, Kasper Szpilko, now although he didn't score on Sunday, nor did he score on Wednesday, his presence in the attack has been there, and he got a nice assist on the second alley goal, man. Where are you at with Kasper? What's your relationship right now with Kasper Szpilko?
I still don't think he's a good striker. In general, like just generally speaking, I think that he is an average to below average MLS striker who will score you a couple goals a season and get you a couple assists. And I think that he would be a great complement piece to someone who is a great to elite striker in the MLS, someone like Josef Martinez or Rui Diaz or something like that. If you played him up top with one of those guys and used him to kind of connect the play and let those guys run and do, you know, their magical things that they like to do, he would be very good at that role. But I think in a team where he is looked upon as the talisman forward, it like, as well as he's playing, like that's not the way I think that we should look at Kasper. And I'm not saying he's not playing well. He is. He's not consistent anymore because he did not meet my criteria, guys. He did not meet the 3 or 4 game scoring in the last 5. He did not meet that. But that doesn't mean that he's not playing well. It's just not, he's just not a consistent scorer. And I think that like people just need to adjust their expectations of what Kasper is and what he's going to do. Because like even me, like I want him to like he should score goals because he is a striker. Like that is what he's paid to do. Especially when like Sergio's hurt every other game and Corey's been out. And the other forward we have is Quinn, who is a forward but isn't really a forward. Like he is the only striker who's
What is he?
I don't know. He can kind of do everything, which is weird. And for a
he has that beautiful assist to Leon's Flock's first goal too, and it's like, dude, oh my god, he can assist too.
Okay.
Leon's speak of what you spoke on Twitter.
Leon's goal, goalie, like the goalie should 1 billion% save that. Like every single time that ball should never go in the net. But what Quinn did on that play was unbelievable because he flicks it in between 2 defenders. And all of them, him included, kind of just stand there for a second. And then no one goes for a ball. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go get my own pass. Passes the ball to himself, crosses it in. Leon's there to finish it off. Leon gets his first goal. Great moment. And that play at the end, or the video at the end where like Sergio runs up to Leon and like they hug each other. Oh, so great. It was so great because Sergio's so big and he just lifts Leon up like he's a little child. And yeah, so that was great. I don't know what Quinn is really. I think he's like a very creative 10 who can score. It's so weird. It's so weird, but I think he should play a lot because he's very good when he plays. Also, he has fantastic hair, kind of like Jimmy Neutron. Honestly, he kind of looks like Jimmy Neutron. And then and so we were talking about Kasper. Yeah, but I think that like I said, Kasper's playing well. And even though I want him to score every game, I'm not gonna I don't expect him to score every game. But that does mean that other people are gonna have to step up. And instead of having one guy with 15 to 20 goals and then a couple guys with 8 to 10 and then the rest with like 3 to 4, you're gonna have just a bunch of guys with like 6 to 12, and it's gonna be a little different in the way that you're gonna get these goals. As you saw, we had Allie, we had Leon, and we had Elliott score. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily our front line doing the business.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, man. Justin, what did you think about the red card? Or the second yellow, I should say. It wasn't just a straight red.
I mean, it was a yellow. Like, let's be honest, the first tackle, I said it that Kai was very lucky for that not to go to review. It was an ugly challenge. Now, there at this point, with the red cards, the intent or not is no longer part of the equation. It's essentially whether it's serious foul play and it endangers the safety of a player. The first one could have gotten reviewed. I was like, oh god, it's gonna get reviewed. They haven't even scored. Like, it's gonna be bad. Luckily got that one, and Kai kind of plays a bit aggressive, and I didn't think he'd not as aggressive as Brujo, but I mean he's a physical
as aggressive
player.
as Brujo.
but he's still pretty physical for an outside back, which you don't see nearly as often. And listen, that second one, he stood him up, literally. Like, that's a yellow card in any stretch. And, Kai should have that Matador stuff was, I didn't do anything. Like, that's not going to work when, the ref sees you step in the way. So it was a second. It was a yellow card. And luckily, with 2 yellows, it's only a 1-game suspension. But it was kind of an unnecessary one. I mean, Cincinnati, I'm not exactly worried about, but you're gonna have to scramble for a back line because unless Matt Real appears out of nowhere, you don't have a left back. Your right back is clearly going to be Harrio because he's the only one you have right now. So then, like,
boy,
where do you does Leon then move to left back, because that's also a position he plays?
Yes.
Like, besides being a natural 6, he has played left back at times. He played at times for St. Pauli. Like, but it just
where
adds
is Matt Real?
Honestly, I have no idea. He is in. I don't know if he's in a doghouse because hasn't been listed on any injury report at all, and I don't think anyone's asked a question about him. And we just kind of were like,
"Hey, yeah. Jim, where's Matt?"
Like, it kind of reminds me of the Derek Jones situation, where like
it's that bad.
It feels that way. Like, I can't think of like even like with Fontana, that's that partial season where he was hurt and then he just couldn't get back in. He wasn't practicing well. Like, there was at least some kind of an explanation. It is getting very Austin Trusty, Derek Jones vibes, and like there was so much promise, and then boom, I've literally have heard nothing. Nothing since. And if I remember correctly, wasn't it last year, the year prior, we signed one of the kids who was playing for U2. He signed him to a U2 contract. I think he's a left back. I'm blanking on the name, but like there's another kid, underneath. And I think Real at some point was supposed to be maybe a converted like wing back, and now I have no idea.
In 2019, we got rid of Keegan Rosenberry, and then we were thinking that Matt Real was going to have the job. They signed Kai Wagner a little later, and Kai kind of stole the job from Matt Real and ran away with it, essentially. And then Matt, he's been finding ways to get into the lineup when Kai misses time with injuries or suspensions and whatnot. And then this year we did see him a little bit playing as a shuttler, but it's just been been weird, and it happens all the time. So
and
we'll see.
Weird too is he hasn't looked bad when he's played either. Like, it's not like he goes out there and he's like clearly the worst player on the field. I mean, I know the last time we saw him was like 3 months ago, but
has he actually played this?
When he played in UCL, what did he play 2 games in UCL or CCL? Not UCL. He's definitely not in the
that
UCL.
was it. I think that was it, as far as I can tell.
But from what I remember, and like correct me if like I'm remembering this incorrectly, but he didn't look bad to me when he played. Like I was like, he looks pretty decent. Like
didn't he get a yellow card in like the first?
I think he did. But that was the one. But wasn't that the one where it was super chippy? It was like a fight at the end.
Yeah, well, that was the one where Kai got taken out, and earlier in the game, Real, like earlier in that half, he had been on the field for maybe like 5 minutes, and he kind of went. He got the ball, but then he also slid slightly over the ball.
Yeah, I do remember that actually. Yeah,
and he took the guy out, and it was like, well, that's one way to get the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just it is a weird situation for sure. But I think Leon's gonna play left back.
For sure. We'll see. Let's get into that, guys, because that was a good win for the Philadelphia Union. Now it makes 4 games that the Union have not lost. But now we're gonna head on over to Cincinnati. We're gonna check out TQL Park or Stadium. I'm sorry. We're gonna check it out for the first time. So we're facing off against FC Cincinnati, and of course, guys, as always, getting you guys the perspective of the other side. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, from Post Cincy and the Knifey Lion Radio podcast, please welcome Cincinnati's own Kevin Wallace. Kevin, what's going on, my man? Welcome to By the River.
Oh, hey guys, thanks for having me on. Always happy to talk to Cincinnati.
Hey, Kevin, real quick, is your mic on? Sounds a little staticky there.
Hang on. Does that sound better for you? Any better?
No, a little static.
Let me see what I can adjust here.
It's all good, man. It's all good. It's part of the game. It's part of the game, man. It's part of the game. So we'll try to get Kevin back on, but no. So we're gonna talk about FC Cincinnati, and we're gonna get his perspective here.
Maybe ask him what on earth Skyline chili exactly is supposed to be. I'm not sure it's chili, and whether it's edible.
Revenge game for Albright. I don't know if this is like bad.
Revenge
for the
game. He's done the job. Not even.
No. Listen. Doesn't matter. It's a revenge game. It's like when Ryan Fitzpatrick plays every other team in the NFL because he's been on every team in the NFL.
That's different because Ryan Fitzpatrick's played on like every team under the sun.
Listen, I don't know if this is good for the Union or not. Who's revenging who? Is the Union revenging against Chris Albright because he left, or is he revenging because they let him go?
I wouldn't say they exactly left on bad terms.
But revenge. I'm just saying, man. I don't like revenge games. I don't like revenge games.
Zach, there's bragging rights. There's not exactly revenge.
Did you see what Sam Darnold did to the Jets? Did you see what Sam Darnold did to the Jets?
Come on.
All right. On that note, guys, let's get Kevin back on here. Kevin.
All right. Hopefully, I sound a little better. Hopefully,
we love it. Awesome. Kevin, welcome on in, my man. What's going on?
Oh, just another beautiful day here in Cincinnati. As I was leaving, I heard some people disparaging the wonderful cuisine of Cincinnati chili. And I got to tell you guys, I mean, you've got your cheese steaks. You should know what it means to be provincial around your own weird dish. We got our own thing going on. It's cool.
So explain. So it's spaghetti with the like your typical chili, right? Like ground beef, beans. No.
So it's not a typical chili. That's what throws everybody off. So it's only called chili because that's maybe the closest thing you could get to in your mind. It's more of a meat sauce. There's all sorts of spices and all sorts of crazy things in there. It comes from Macedonia. It was brought over by a bunch of Macedonian and Greek immigrants to Cincinnati. So you can serve it on spaghetti, that works. But if it's your first time, put it on a hot dog. It's more like a chili dog. You'll fall right in line with it. Is it true that it has cinnamon in it? Is that? So there's different recipes. There's a little bit of everything. It will not taste like cinnamon. You'll also see some recipes call for dark chocolate or cocoa or something like that. It doesn't taste like that, but it's in there. There's nutmeg, there's allspice, there's all sorts of fun things happening.
And a lot of cheese.
A lot of cheese. For me, I commit blasphemy every time I do not eat all the cheese. It's too much cheese for me. And then they run specials where you can get triple cheese and stuff. It gets ridiculous.
Isn't it like just literally
That sounds
it
like
has to be
a
shredded
stomach
cheese
nightmare.
or nothing? It has to be like shredded cheese or nothing. Like I've heard that like if it's not shredded cheese, you don't even like bring it around.
No, it's got to be, the more fake it looks, the better. It's got to be a neon orange for you. That's how you know it's going to be good.
That's horrifying.
Well, Kevin, I'm more spontaneous than Justin and Zach, and I would definitely love to try Skyline Chili.
I'll try.
There we go.
I just don't know how my stomach will react afterwards. But that's the adventure.
We'll make sure there's a bathroom close by, Justin, for you. But Kevin, first off, we want to thank you for hopping on in. We have this. You are our first FC Cincinnati guest. So seriously, thank you so much for coming on in here today. But we want to start off, Kevin, by wondering who is Kevin Wallace. Kind of talk about who you are, the work you do for the club of FC Cincinnati, and such and so forth.
I wear a couple of different hats right now. So I'd say maybe even first and foremost, I help run one of the supporters groups, the Pride Cincy. I don't have everybody's member rolls in front of me, but I'll go ahead and say we're the largest of the supporters groups. I also help run the Post Cincy, which is sort of our fan media outlet here in Cincinnati. We're a little irreverent. I don't know. We're not a traditional journalistic outlet there. And between those two different things, it gets really interesting. And then, I contribute to Knifey Lion Radio, which is a hilarious FC Cincinnati podcast. I'm probably very biased there, but I think you'd have a good time listening to it after this match, for some good breakdowns and stuff like that. It's a good time. So, this has been the frustrating thing with FC Cincinnati. This is an awesome fan base. There's a lot of fan creativity. There's a lot of outlets. There's a lot of fan accounts and just fan-driven media that is really, really interesting and fun. And the team has just been so bad. None of it's been worth checking into if you're from the outside. It's barely been worth checking into if you're a diehard fan of this team. So, just frustrating times over here in Cincinnati. It's going to be a theme of what my answers are going to be tonight, I'm sure.
Kevin, don't you have 13 million reasons to watch the team?
I think we did publish something akin to all of the reasons why you should watch FC Cincinnati, and our author gave up halfway through that article. So the article just suddenly stops in the middle, and you're kind of left to read into it as you will.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. But that's a really cool segue, because I wanted to ask you. Look, there was a lot of hype around you guys. You guys really did a great job of supporting the club when it was USL you guys were in, right?
Yep.
So you guys were in USL. You guys did a fantastic job supporting the club. Unfortunately, in the MLS, we'll be honest. You guys had a tough time transitioning into that league. What is the state of the fan base now? 3 years. You're going into your third rebuild. It haven't seen a lot of success. There was that spurt in the MLS's back tournament, right? But not much else. So what has it been like being a Cincinnati fan the past 3 years?
Not fun. That's the short answer. It's not been fun. The story we're all kind of telling ourselves now is that, every good narrative, every good story has its ups and downs, and sports is nothing but just a great big soap opera. And so this is just the sort of the low point that we're going to have to wade through before we take off. The thing you can take solace in as an FC Cincinnati fan with this team is that, yes, the on-field product has been abysmal, historically so. There is no way getting around that. But almost everything else around the club has been pretty good. It's one of the nicest stadiums in the league. They have some of the most lucrative sponsorship deals for the stadium and their shirt. The owners are not afraid to spend. Now, who's spending that money, and are they spending it wisely? That's not been great. But ownership's been fine, dropping $13 million on a young Brazilian striker. That's awesome. That's something MLS has not seen regularly.
We certainly can't say that.
No.
Yeah.
And definitely not on a striker.
Right. About $5 million for a has-been Mexican midfielder. How's that get?
I like it.
But no, I mean that's what makes the Albright signing, I think, super interesting as well. But no, I think in general, FC Cincinnati has a lot to look forward to. We just keep assuming that that sunrise is just around the corner, and it hasn't been, which has been frustrating.
But Kevin, listen, the delirious optimism isn't supposed to happen for an expansion team until year 5. Listen, we've been through that. We've been through the pile of shit, and keep going. Well, the foundation's there, the academy's there. Everything's there. It's just going to get better. I mean, it took us 8 years to do that, so I don't know if you guys are on that trajectory, but it takes at least a couple more years before you get to delirious optimism.
Not if you're LAFC though.
Yeah,
or Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Or
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Because everyone, well, that's just insane money.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, LAFC had 4.5 years to prepare for their move to MLS, and Atlanta had 2 or 3 years. FCC had, and I'll have it probably tattooed on me at some point, 277 days from the time they were announced to the time they kicked off. That gave them 1, and I'll say a half transfer windows to build an entire MLS roster, that main window being the winter window for Europe. That's hard. That's real hard. Even if you have the best of the best in MLS, that's hard. And we did not have the best of the best in MLS doing that. So it made it really hard.
So I do have to ask selfishly, Zach and Justin can vouch for this as well. The way I look at soccer, especially in Philadelphia, I look at the landscape of the whole sports landscape. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure Kevin, Philadelphia, the crazy sports city. And my goal, my dream is to make the Union part of that talk as well. I'm assuming you live in the Cincinnati area with your knowledge of Skyline Chili. So when you guys came in, it was the perfect timing because the Reds and the Bengals are who they are. Where is that fit now in the city as far as sports talk goes in Cincy?
It's a good question. So there is a tactical misstep, I think, by the team that kind of threw them off the trajectory they were on. But in general, yes, the Reds and the Bengals are, upper echelon, upper tier is in terms of the attention the city gets. I mean, the Reds are beloved beyond beloved. The Reds could have losing seasons for the rest of all time, and they would still be everybody's favorite team. They just have a special place, I think, in sports. The Bengals, I mean, fair play. They're an absolute punching bag.
Hey, not this year. Not this year.
I know. It takes one player, turn them around. Everybody's like, I've always loved the Bengals.
Joey B, man. Joey B.
It's really impressive. He might actually save this coach's job single-handedly. So it's impressive. So FC Cincinnati, comes in when the Bengals are at the tail end of the Marvin Lewis era, which was already, rocky for a lot of people. And the Reds had just completely failed at their last sort of playoff push, championship team or whatever, and they were in the midst of a rebuild. So it was perfectly timed for FC Cincinnati to show up in the sports landscape. And then we're successful. That's the thing. That first year in USL, they made the playoffs, which is, pretty okay for a first-time USL team. The second year was the incredible US Open Cup run, where they make the semifinals and we're leading against New York Red Bulls in the second half on their way to make the final, and completely blew it there. But that tournament run was absolutely insane, and may have very well gotten the team into MLS by itself there. And then the next year, FC Cincinnati put together, at that time, the best USL team ever assembled. They set the all-time points record and went undefeated for 5 months or something. It was insane. So you can imagine, as well, that idea going into the transition to MLS, we had convinced ourselves we had a C-level MLS team in USL, so we would just tack on a couple of pieces and we'd be average. That was what we'd convinced ourselves of. It didn't work out, but yeah, to your point, it had been perfectly timed for Cincy Sports to show up there.
Still plenty of time, Kevin. Still plenty of time.
Yeah.
Kevin, let's talk about the big news at hand. No secret, you guys are going in a different direction as far as the front office go. Taken away from us, it's a little bittersweet, but Chris Albright is heading over to FC Cincinnati to be the sporting director there. What is the pulse with the FC Cincinnati fans? How are they feeling? What was the reaction of the Albright's hiring?
I think in general, people are really excited. I'd say about 80% of the fan base is really excited. I'd say another 10% have no idea what's going on in terms of the front office stuff. And maybe another 10% were holding out for, I don't know, Brian Bliss, or maybe they had their own preferred candidate there. But no, I think Albright is on paper about as good as FC Cincinnati could have done with this GM search. They get somebody with a ton of MLS experience, both as a player and in the front office. Somebody that has a reputation for being the numbers guy, the wonk guy, the salary cap manipulator. That is something FC Cincinnati has just tragically failed at in the last few years. There will probably be 4 guys on our bench against Philadelphia making at least $1 million apiece. It is just
guys on the whole team that make $1 million.
Yeah, right. We lost Lacadia, but I think we had 6 or 7 players all making $1 million or more a year. Most of them were bench players because they just were not as good as some of the other guys that have been on the team. It was just horribly, horribly managed. So fans are excited to see competence in the front office, just generally. So Albright has plenty of goodwill to work with in the fan base, and honestly, he could do a dead-on average job, and it will feel like he's a brilliant MLS genius. So very excited about this.
I think Justin and Zach can vouch for Albright as well, but I think his valuable experience seeing from 2 different clubs. I'm speaking of LA Galaxy and also with the Philadelphia Union. Obviously, the Galaxy, especially in those times, we're not scared of spending money. But the Union spent money wisely. If you talk to most of our fan base, they don't like to spend money in one specific position. And Zach probably is going to tell me right now, it's the striker.
Oh yeah.
But again, he knows how to spend money. We know how to spend the money smartly. When you look at Brujo, you look at Wagner. I mean, even Kasper Shabilko was a free transfer. I mean, we criticize him to death, but he was a free transfer here. So I think that's something beneficial to FC Cincinnati, where you guys, it's great. You guys are spending money, and that's awesome. Like that's like half the battle, right? But the other battle is being able to spend it correctly as well. So
and as I always try to tell other Union fans, like, for all the talk is you want Sugarman to spend money, and he should spend more money. You can get a solid striker for $2 to $3 million.
I did a whole video about it.
I use FC Cincinnati as a cautionary tale of throwing all that money at a position without improving the actual areas of need isn't going to do much. And that's why I'm always like, be careful what you wish for, because I'm sure FC Cincinnati fans, as much as you love the spending, you also probably would have preferred anyone other than Jeff Cameron on a free transfer from QPR. Maybe would have been a better option, at least in my opinion.
Okay, now you say that, but Jeff Cameron is without a doubt the best FC Cincinnati signing of all time. Like, I can say that.
Is that a high bar to clear?
Over Medunian.
Hang on. I mean, there's plenty of USL history I can draw on this, but Jeff Cameron turned what was one of the worst defenses ever fielded in a top flight in the world of all time, ever, and turn them into an average defense. And baby, that is so much work. That is so much work. I mean, good. The very first game he played, and I think he might have literally walked off the plane and walked onto the field. He cramped up in the 70th minute. Miami got an easy one on us, and we lost the first full capacity, our first home opener in the new stadium. But ever since that moment, I don't think he's made a mistake, not to get political, other than getting the vaccine and missing a bunch of Canadian matches. But other than that, he's been great. So,
which I was gonna say, the getting burned by Gonzalo Higuain while cramping is not ideal.
Not a good look.
But
not a good look.
But hey, the first goal ever scored at your stadium was scored by the man, the myth, the legend, the American. I don't know if you call him Wonder Kid. He's like Florida man embodied. One Breck Shea.
Oh,
my
Space
God.
Unicorn himself.
Legend.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
He scored a second one against us, by the way, when Miami came back to Cincinnati. So we got to feel that twice.
Another good thing about Albright too is now you guys have all the connections of Mr. Ernst up there, because I'm sure he's got all those numbers in his phone too.
Definitely that, and at least like whenever it seemed like someone was closing the deal, Ernst would send Chris. Ernst would make the initial connection, and then he would send, which I would say goes pretty well for a guy who knows how to close the deal on some low risk, high reward signing.
You guys might not draft players anymore either.
Yeah, no, you guys might do what
it might be
over. You guys, we just trade you all your picks for Don Garber funny money.
You don't need it.
Might be done. Might be done. Now,
I actually got a chance to ask him about that. I asked him straight up. I said, "Are you the one who sold all of the draft picks to Jeff Birding in 2019?" And he was a little hesitant on it, but he finally admitted, "Yeah, that was him." So that was good. That was good.
Now, speaking of draft picks, do you guys
awesome.
hate Frankie Amaya or no?
So I think I would hate Frankie Amaya more if he were good. He kicked up all that dust talking about he wanted playing time, he wanted a club that he could, that would make him successful, and then he went go ride the pine in New Jersey. It's like, all right, dude, you're killing it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the $1 million.
That's fair. I honestly, when he was leaving, I thought he would have been a good pickup for the Union, but didn't happen.
Kevin, let me ask you here as we get to this current team right now. I hate to remind you, but FC Cincinnati are in last place in the Eastern Conference.
Wooden spoon 3 years in a row. Come on.
Oh, man.
3 times, baby.
So our match is upcoming Saturday night. I just want to know, what should we expect from Cincinnati on Saturday?
A win? Like a win for Union? Like,
oh, okay.
Like if you don't beat us, no, if you don't beat us, you should be rightfully embarrassed. This is not a good team. At this point, the U19 manager, and they continue to harp that he's going to be like the MLS2 manager. So I don't even think he's in the running for the first team manager, even if Tyron Marshall wins every single match here on out. I don't think they're going to give it to him. So at this point, he's said that a lot of players have been complacent with their spot in the squad because Jaap Stam wouldn't rotate the squad at all. That was a fun feature of the Jaap Stam era. Yeah, you get 5 subs and he'd use like 2. So that was cool.
Oh,
Thanks.
Sounds super familiar.
Yeah, that's really familiar, guys.
It works out great, doesn't it? So he basically just said, anybody has a bad game, they're getting benched, and nobody's had a good game in a while. So I have no idea who he's going to run out there. So that'll be fun.
Rotation.
Yeah, I would love to see them just field the U19 team and just have a bunch of 17-year-olds out there, and honestly, probably be more competitive. So
play the kids. Yes, Kevin, you should run out there. I mean,
no. Our supporters group has two teams, and they are both always battling for the bottom spot of the rec league table that we are in. So you don't want none of this.
Oh my God. All right. So now that we know that, let's head on over to our side here. Guys, look, here's the deal. Cincinnati, we just heard Kevin. I mean, they're not really fighting for much these days, but on our side, for whatever reason, the MLS likes to play during World Cup qualifications. We're going to be without 6 players, 6 key players. Miro's going to be gone. And Baizo's gone. We got Gazek is going to be out. Obviously, Andre Blake and Alvis Powell will be out as well. And Brujo, who, by the way, Dodge, I guess is suspended. Or no, he was suspended. But
yeah, he missed.
So essentially, I think he's serving the suspension once he gets back. I like it. I don't know. It was weird. He was already in Venezuela, I think, for the game. Like,
so he wasn't even. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh no. He was out of the country. He was not even in the country for the Columbus game.
He tried to pull a fast one on the MLS.
Yeah,
he was like, "They're going to suspend me, and I'm just going to be playing soccer anyway."
I guess
pretty much.
It was tough to figure out. Someone's like, "Yeah, he's not even in the country anymore."
Okay.
By the way, as we spoke as well, Kai Wagner is going to be suspended. So we're going to be putting out like what Kevin said. All the kids are going to be playing. So Kevin, you might as well put the U19s out there as well, so we can have a nice little U19 matchup here.
Actually, that you guys brought up something. I want to ask you about this. How has Alvis Powell been for Philadelphia? What's the review on that?
When he's played, he's been decent.
Yeah, I think he is more. Like, he's definitely more. Actually, Baizo is way more offensively minded, but Alvis has been kind of as essentially a Ray Gaddis like replacement of someone who can play really well defensively, someone who does not mind getting physical, does not mind digging in for those challenges. We saw that a bit in CCL. So for when we needed him. Like, people forget he's an MLS veteran and he's only 28. Like, he's been around. He was a big part of Portland's run to the MLS Cup. Like, I said it was a pretty low key signing to get someone like him as your backup right back. But when he came in, he's been very serviceable and helped essentially keep the defense at what it's been the entire year.
Just blowing my mind right now because I'll tell you what the script is for FC Cincinnati on Alvis Powell. He played in the very first MLS game against Seattle. Had a rough game. I don't think it was remotely his fault. And the entire fan base just decided he was the worst soccer player of all time. Like, by far, like the most hated player in FC Cincinnati on that first 2019 roster. Never had a shot, was with Jamaica all summer, and just like nobody wanted to see him come back, and he was gone. So I've been trying to keep tabs on him throughout, and the fact that he's even remotely successful is frustrating.
Well, I mean, as we discussed, I mean, especially in 2019, I mean, I don't know exactly how conducive the environment was in the dressing room, but what I see here, obviously, like, we have a strong group of guys. And I think also having guys like Andre Blake and Corey Burke here, who, like you mentioned, he plays with on the national team on a consistent basis, and just the coaching staff that was willing to help continue developing him as well. He's, like I said, he's not technically sound just yet, but like Justin said, defensively he's been really strong for us, and that's when we've been able to use him. You saw CCL time; he played in the semifinals against Copa America because Baizo lost a chiclet.
Lost his tooth, man. He lost his tooth.
In there, he did a fine job. He actually kind of shut down that nasty wingback they have over in Copa America. So it was pretty cool to see. But Justin and Zach, Justin, you can start off here. What could this potential lineup look like Saturday night?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, again, normally in net, you'd be writing Andre in there, like you'd be writing that with a permanent marker. I guess this is technically the game in hand we have with the rest of the team. So a win here would be pretty nice. I think assume it's going to be, I would say Matt Freese, but Joe Bendick's been on the bench, so it's going to be either or. Jim seems to kind of flip flop depending on I don't know, flip of a coin. This feels like
Freese has been getting game time though,
and Joe actually like Bendick, for all the crap we give him, has actually played half decently when he's needed to this season. Your back line is going to be really interesting. like really interesting because your back line is, you're missing a left back, so at this point, I think Leon has to come in at left back because he's a natural 6. But if you look at his transfer market, he's also a left back, and he played left back at St. Pauli. So I'm guessing he's the left back at this point. That's what I'm thinking. Obviously, Glesnes and Elliott are your defense pairing there. I mean, if Elliott pulling the long range bombs out of his tool chest, which apparently he's been practicing according to Matty Freeze. If you saw his tweet, he's been practicing those. So
the under the wall free kicks from 35 yards out.
Yeah,
that is some skill to practice. Let me tell you.
Requirement that they have to shoot from at least 30 yards out.
Yeah,
and be able to put one in the net. And then right back at this point, you definitely have to. It's gonna be Harry. I mean, right now he's the only right back. Wing back you got. Now the midfield is where it does get interesting. If Gazdag is out as well with Montero and Brujo,
3 of the 4 are gone, and then Leon's at left back.
I think this is time where Bueno gets a start. I think he's your only other legitimate 6. I mean, this is why you brought him in, right? He's the
let's see some minutes.
Yeah, he's the long-term replacement.
3 minutes.
He's a long-term replacement to Brujo. I think that's a legitimate area. I think you're gonna have Quinn and Ali as your shuttlers, and then I think Paxton gets the start at the 10. I think why not? You saw the last time they played against New England up in New England. They nearly stole some points. Like outside of if Gustavo Bo isn't able to pounce on that penalty kick after Dre saves it, you're walking out of Foxborough with a point with a pretty depleted roster, and you only lost to them 1-0 with the kids at home in a game you probably could have won. Like that was one where it was unfortunate, but and then your strikers. Zach's favorite man, Casper, who I looked at the numbers when he scores or at least is involved in a goal. Yeah, the Union are really good.
Yeah.
It's really a shame. It's really a shame it doesn't happen more often.
I know, like the record when he scores or at least assists in a goal is wild. And then I don't want Sergio to start. And I'm saying this for the fact that in the last 3 games, he's played 75, 75, and 85.
Yeah.
And for a speedster that has soft tissue injuries and is prone to those injuries, I would love to see him maybe come on in the second half. So maybe Davo actually gets.
That's a good one.
Maybe Davo actually gets a start, or maybe you put McGlynn in at as a shuttler and put Quinn up top. At this point, it's gonna be a player kid. It's gonna be the play the kids lineup. But the nice thing about it is you have enough talented kids who I'm sure any team would love to have come through their academy. Like that's the weird thing is Jim for the first part of the year did not really trust the kids, and it really took it to about at least after Atlanta CCL for him to finally start to actually play them and starting to realize like, oh, Quinn Sullivan can assist himself because he can just chip the ball and run and play a nice through ball to Leon for his first goal. But like it's gonna be a very interesting lineup. I'm not sure at this point what to expect for a score, but the lineup is gonna be wild. I'm gonna tell you that much.
Yeah. Now,
Zach,
so if they do play the diamond, which I mean I would guess they do, the only change, now I don't think they should. Now hear me out, but the only change I would make is I like Justin said, play Jack as one of the I think you do Bueno, Ali, and Jack, and then you have Paxton and then Quinn and Casper up top. I think what would be awesome to see is if they went 3-5-2. All right, you got the 3 center backs. You know who they are. Stewart's getting the start. All right. You got Powell at like that right wing back, right mid spot. You got Leon at that left mid, left wing back spot. Okay.
Wait, Alvis?
Oh, not Alvis. I'm sorry, Harrell.
I was
Harrell.
like,
Harrell. Yeah, my mistake. I forgot. Center mids, you go Bueno and Ali at the base. Okay, then you have Paxton at the 10, and the strikers are now again Quinn and Casper. I think that would be really cool to see. Just a little change. I mean, they've gone with a 3-4-3 before. I think a 3-5-2 would be really awesome to see how it goes. Will Jim do that? Almost definitely not. But I think it would be cool to see.
I would say, first off, at goalie, I would rather see. Listen, I love Freeze, and to me, I'd rather see more if what he can give us as far as the future. We know Andre Blake's not going to be the goalkeeper forever, so I just want to see Freeze as much as I possibly can.
I agree.
We talked about it earlier. Listen, if Matt Rial does not see the pitch this match, that is really telling, and he might never ever play again for the Philadelphia Union, which will be very upsetting. As far as the midfield goes, I think one thing you guys haven't considered as well. I love Zach's idea, but obviously I don't think that will happen.
Never.
But last season we did see Jack move up to the 6, and then we would play Mark and Glasnes at the center backs. I think that's something we could see Saturday potentially.
I was also thinking that too. Yeah.
Especially, we'll find out with Kevin what the lineup consistency will be. But if they have a lot of speed in their midfield, then Jack can play that 6th role perfectly fine. I think your Shudlers should be Jack McGlynn and Ali Bedoya, with your 10 being Paxton Aronson. I agree with Justin. I would not like to see Sergio come out as a starter. I would rather see him come in the second half. And I would like to start Quinn and Casper as your strikers. Now, it's interesting because I think Davo needs to see some minutes. And last time we're in the situation, we saw Davo get some minutes. I still find it weird that he hasn't seen minutes, considering his deal is a 6-month loan with option to buy. And Jesus Bueno, we did see him get some. It was like 3 minutes at the end. Again, let's see what he has. Like, I want to see him come off as a sub as well. So that's what I would like to see the Union do. Now, Kevin, you heard what we talked about with our starting 11. What could we potentially be facing this Saturday against the FC Cincinnati?
I mean, a terrible team. So let's run through it. I mean, take your choice of goalkeepers. You got Shimislav Titon, who is below average, or you got Kenneth Vermeer, who is Kenneth Vermeer. You might have the best goalkeeper in MLS one match. You might have the worst goalkeeper in USL the next. You don't know what you're going to get with that guy. So in terms of who starts, I don't have a clue. So that's your goalkeeping situation. Not to mention, if it were up to me and I don't know, a good chunk of the fan base, we'd start Ben Lundt. He's actually one of the draft picks. Thanks, Philly, for that one. All he did was go to USL and win USL Goalkeeper of the Year in 2019 and put together, or 2020, put together a very respectable 2019 season. Was doing very well with Phoenix, who has been the big stud team in USL, before he was recalled and still can't get playing time, despite the fact that, as I said, the two go-to starters are not very good. On the right back, I mean, look, you can spend $13 million on a striker. You can spend whatever it was, $3 million for Lucho Acosta, $4 million for Isaac Atanga. Yeah, look that one up. That's weird. But we never got a right back. Just don't need one. There's not one on the roster. But we might see Zico Bailey. That would be my guess. LA Academy product. Has looked fine. He had a hip injury most of this year, but he's looked solid when he's been out there. Just maybe 300 MLS minutes his entire career. Center backs, I think we finally get Vallecilla back. He's very good, Ecuadorian center back, young, very fast. Still working out some parts of his game, some of the decision making, but he's young enough. It's a good bet that he'll be very, very good in a year or two. I would expect him back, and maybe Jeff Cameron, maybe Nick Hagland. If it's Cameron, I mean, his legs have to give out at some point. He played an entire championship season before coming over here to play the vast majority of this MLS season. He's not a spring chick. I can't imagine he goes for too long if he does play on this one. So I would expect Hagelin and Vallecilla there. Edgar Castillo, just MLS workhorse off to the left on the left back there. In midfield, anybody's guess. Maybe we see Alan Cruz, who was recently not called up to the Costa Rican national team. There's some confusion about that in local media here. Maybe you see Harris Medunjanin. Maybe we get a little nice Philly Union.
Wait, double revenge game. That means this is a double revenge game.
Well, listen, it's not really
bad,
much of a defensive game when Harris Medunjanin does he still point as the guy runs past him? That was his playing defense for us.
Yeah, he's not been that bad defensively because that was absolutely the script on Medunjanin. Is like he's a good passer, but he's slow and he won't play defense. And he does okay on defense. The problem is nobody else does, so it doesn't really matter. But maybe let's put Alan Cruz, Harris Medunjanin, and it's probably still going to be Lucho Acosta there in the middle. Acosta's been good. The team hasn't been, but individually, I think he's done well. He's done about as well as somebody in his position could do. Absolutely a luxury piece for any MLS roster. So I don't know what he's doing on our team, but I'm happy to have him. He's a good attacking piece there. I would expect to see Yuya Kubo on the left wing. Yuya Kubo, here's a fun fact about Kubo. Kubo and Joseph Martinez were teammates in Switzerland. They played for the same team. They're roughly the same age. They play roughly the same position. Sort of a striker, can play in the midfield a little bit. Kubo outscored Joseph Martinez by a good 2-1 clip. Kubo went to go play for Champions League clubs in Belgium, and Joseph went to Atlanta. FC Cincinnati signed Kubo. You're like, hell yeah, we got this. And Jaap Stam turned him into a defensive midfielder.
I was gonna say when you put him at forward, I'm like,
that man's all about
allowed? Is that allowed? Because he's a.
I'm sorry.
He was not the hardest title to take, but he was our leading goal scorer last year, and he was converted into a defensive midfielder. So I'd expect him. He didn't start last game, so he'll probably start this game. Barrial, young kid from Argentina, has played for some Argentinian youth teams. Tons and tons of raw talent. Final product's not there. Maybe a good coach squeezes that out of him. That would be great to see. And up top, probably Brenner. I mean, you don't pay $13 million to let it sit on the bench, but
you might.
I don't know. He hasn't been terribly effective last few games. Maybe Brandon Vasquez gets the run out. A long time Atlanta backup moved to Cincinnati last year. Maybe he gets the start and Brenner comes on at halftime. Maybe something like that.
All right. Well, guys, let's get to the nitty gritty here. Kevin, we'll allow you to start here with your predict. What do you think will happen in your prediction with the scoreline?
I'm going to go 3-1 Philadelphia, but Cincinnati scores first. Home crowd's feeling it, and then it just all comes down.
Hey, man,
that's how I see this one going.
To your fans.
Hey, this literally happened against Toronto midweek last week. So
I did watch those highlights. All right, Justin, give us what do you think is going to happen in the match with the prediction scoreline?
I think Kev stole my scoreline. I think it's 3-1. I'll also agree. I think that Cincinnati scores first, and it's going to be like, you know how I always worry about those first 10 minutes? It's going to be like an ugly play. It's going to be an early one. And then I think the Union get one like just before the half. Like you're thinking it's going to walk in 1-0. And then again, Union love that broken play counterattack. I'm not predicting who scores because as we've seen on this pod, we are so wrong on
all
this.
The time.
And I mean, I've been pretty good on. Well, I'm going to predict draws, so let's not go
against Red Bulls, especially
against Red Bull, which is a pretty easy thing to do when you know how they play. I think it's a chance for Jim forced to rotate the squad because Jim does not rotate the squad at all either. But I think this is going to be a chance to give in a lot of these players that really haven't played. And considering you have 7 games this month, you're going to need rotation. You only have 2 more home games, so you're going to have to picking up points on the road. You play Cincinnati twice. In this stretch of Cincinnati, Montreal, Nashville, Toronto, Cincinnati, and New York, there's got to be at least a few wins. And I think and you've been in the right direction. You're, within, if you win this game in hand, you're back now to 3 points back of Nashville. You can keep it at that level. You play them at home in a couple weeks. I think it's crucial. And I think this is something that, Jim doesn't mind a road draw, but I think this game, if it's tied in the second half, I think you'll actually see him make more than 2 subs and actually go for the win.
It's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. What do you got, Zach?
I also think 3-1. We're all in agreement. Although, if the revenge narrative does come to fruition, which I am afraid that it might, all right, Harris and Chris, just bringing that bad juju back onto Philly. If I wouldn't be surprised at like a 1-1 draw. I wouldn't be surprised.
You mean like the ugly 0-0 draw back, what was that, 2 years ago?
So yeah.
The ugliest game on the planet.
Yeah.
The field was wet. Everyone was sliding all over the place. At this point, we were like just praying no one really got hurt. And it was a draw. And we're like, well, at least we got a point.
Yeah. So if the bad juju's around, I could see a draw. All right. I'm just saying. I think it's gonna be 3-1, but you never know with the revenge games.
Ooh, what about a 3-1 Union win, but Harris Medunjanin with the Olympico? Huh? That's that gets enough revenge.
You think he scores a banging free kick and celebrates in front of Jim like an animal?
I mean, he scored 2 of them last year. He scored 2 Olympicos for his last year.
I remember.
I don't see why he can't do it again.
This is very true.
Bill Bendix in that, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, Bendy. Kevin, where can people find your great work and the podcast as well?
Yeah, probably the easiest way would be my Twitter handle, at Mr. Kevin Wallace. I don't know how I got that one, but I got that one. So just all spelled out, WALLACE. The links are in my bio there to the post, to the Pride, awesome. And then I tend to retweet my work, so that's where to find me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, guys. Definitely check that out. If you're ever curious about what's going on with FC Cincinnati, definitely check out Mr. Kevin Wallace. Kevin, thank you so much for tuning on in, and thank you for being our first FC Cincinnati guest, man.
Oh, absolutely, guys! This was a blast. Would always be happy to come back and visit. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Thank you so much to Kevin Wallace. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another episode of DOOP by the River. A quick reminder that this podcast will be rebroadcasted as well in podcast form. Wherever you stream podcasts, you can look up PSN Radio. You can find all of your favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts on PSN Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Kevin Wallace. That is Zach Laboso, the birthday boy. That is Justin, center back Laboso, squad leader. And, of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys to do on. We'll talk to you guys next week.